looked at, okay, we're now recording. Is that right? Okay, we're recording now. This is the 3 Keys to Understanding Social Media. My name is Randy Vaughn. I'm with yourschoolmarketing.com. I'll make that introduction just for the recording. But we are excited about this series of social media webinars. And like I said, we took a poll just a few weeks ago, and many of you contributed your thoughts to that. And these seem to be the ones that they came out on top, that the areas, like Donnie mentioned, basic understanding a strategy of social media, what to post on social media, things like that, and certainly we've gauged in other venues as well, besides just that poll, and then certainly on Facebook, and then the third one was something that I had hoped that somebody would want to do it, because I've been wanting to do a webinar on your visual content strategy, and that seemed to get a lot of attention as well, and people wanting to know, especially we talked about photos and images for a long time, and then video, but video is always limited to YouTube and Vimeo. And now in the last year we have seen the Vine videos, and recently the Instagram videos. So you have this mobile video that is now beginning to take over everybody's attention. So it really necessitates a discussion of that. And so we're looking forward to sharing that information with you at the end of this month, and I suspect we'll probably have an encore of these webinars throughout the remainder of 2013. But as Donnie mentioned, I'm at School Marketing on Twitter, which is, for the sake of my 140 characters, I've abbreviated marketing, and then we're using the hashtag SM4Schools, talking about social media for schools today. So be sure and tweet out some things so we can encourage a conversation about this. And like Donnie said, go to Ed Social Media. There's an ongoing conversation about social media in education. So what we want to do is talk about the 3 keys to understanding social media. And I'm going to give you those 3 keys right off the bat, and then we're going to look into more specifically of what those are. So strategy, tactics, and integration. Those are the 3 keys we're going to discuss today. That admittedly I could have gone up to a number of probably 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 keys, but for the sake of time, we're going to be lucky to get through these 3. But we could have talked about measurement of social media. We could have talked about other tools that would allow you to, what am I thinking about, productivity on social media, how to maximize your time. We could have talked about that. But these 3 keys are the things that we see most often are challenges for schools that we've worked with, people we interact with on different forums. These are the 3 keys that seem to be needing the most attention, and we're going to talk about that. So, and there's a particular order to it, and because if you heard us talk at all, but also we do some business consulting as well, and we're always talking about strategy before tactics. And you'll see why that's important as we get through this webinar today, that we always it's like instinctively, businesses, organizations, and certainly schools like to jump to the tactical side of things, because that's where we can jump into a new Instagram video and start playing around with that, and it's more fun, and that's the thing that gets the buzz out there. That's what gets talked about, are the tactical things, and those are the things that we're at least familiar with the terminology a little bit, but we're not sure how to use it. But really, there's a step prior to the tactical approach that we need to address, and that begins to understand the strategy. Now, when I talk about strategy today, we're going to be talking about this social media strategy. Your social media system is part of really a larger inbound marketing system, which then is also a part of your overall comprehensive marketing system. So these are systems within systems within systems, but today we're going to talk about your social media marketing system. You'll see that as we get into the tactical side of things. So strategy is very important, because we have to understand what it is we're doing on social media. What are we doing on Facebook? We're going to launch Instagram because everybody's on Instagram, and so we're going to do it. But if we don't know why we're doing it, then we're going to get lost, and we're probably going to be ineffective, and worse, you're going to post something today and maybe not post another thing for 3 or 4 months, and there's nothing worse than a social media channel that the last posting was 6 months ago. that's not good. So your followers, your prospective families who are looking at your school don't want to see that. That looks bad. And so we're going to look at strategy to help you know what you're doing on social media. So that is the first thing we're going to look at. So let's take a look at strategy. And so as we get into strategy, what we want to do is help you understand what it is we're doing. What it is, what do I post on social media? How often do I do it? And these are the questions that we get most often when we're talking about social media and we're talking about strategy, we're talking about what it is we're doing. So we're giving you a strategy today, and the strategy is based on an acronym. And I'll tell you what the acronym is, and it's HELPER. Now, we'll get into the specifics of what HELPER is, but I love this because social media at its most common use out in the world today is very narcissistic, very much self-focused. People taking pictures of what they had for lunch, and they're talking, and celebrities talking about themselves, and it's very much self-focused. But what we can do in social media, particularly for our school, is turn that, flip that around, and become a helper. I love. We've been talking about this for a long time. I always laugh because I read a book recently, just launched this summer, called Utility by Jay Baer, and you'll want to get that book. It's called Utility, and it's YOU Utility, and it's a fascinating book, and it's all talking. And actually, the tagline I think it says something like, "Smart marketing is more about help than hype." And I love that because that's exactly what we've been talking about. So I'm thinking Jay kind of stole that from us. But the being a helper is just, it's like counterintuitive. People are not expecting you to be a helper. But if you can focus on being a helper, that is going to be your overall strategy. So let's get into that acronym because it's going to give you some ideas of what we mean by that. So the first thing we're going to look at is the letter H. And that is just reminding you that your hub of all your social media is your website, and we're going to look at that even more specifically as we get to the tactics section of this webinar. When you're thinking about social media and you're sitting in front of your keyboard or you're looking on your phone and you want to tweet out something, think about what's on your website right now that could be helpful to somebody. And think of that term: useful, helpful, educational, informational. What's out there already? It's probably a reason why we need to have another conversation about content marketing, about producing kind of content that educates and builds trust. We got to think what's on the website. So think, what do I have out there already? Maybe it's an FAQ page that I can tweet out to or put on Facebook so people can see that. There's a lot of good information on your website, good, useful information. Think about going back to your website. The second thing related to that is educating your followers. And so that's the E part of this, is educating your connections with the kind of content that's valuable, that's useful, that's helpful. These are the things that are going to add value to their day, their life. It's going to bless them and it's going to encourage them, but more than anything, it's just going to help them make decisions. And so you can focus, I would suggest, out of this whole acronym of helper, if you focus 80% of your time on the E part, you're going to have a great social media strategy. You can think of all the things that, if you're in admission office and you get questions from prospective families who come in or they call on the phone, take note of all those questions, and if you don't already have an FAQ page on your website, think through all those things and answer those questions. It's probably going to be just enough to entice them to want to come in and want to know more, so you don't feel like you're giving away every detail, but you're educating people. You're providing, maybe there would be a chance for ebooks that you write that can talk about things. You can provide webinars and things that they're going to be good, and we're going to talk about that in just a little bit as well. But you can educate. Educate is going to be key to your social media strategy. It really does. We're going to put that as a real prominent part of your strategy. But there's other things you can do on social media when you want to provide a little bit of a balance. So a couple of things have to do with the letter L that we see and that we like and we do have to do with leadership and laughter. Both those L's seem to be appropriate, so we're going to talk leadership. Think about, one, just thought leadership, business leadership, educational leaders, quotes that people say, again, tweeting out, or articles that somebody in the education field writes to that you want direct your followers to, but even your own thoughts. Maybe you, maybe if you're a head of school and you want to share thoughts with your followers or your immediate community, lead with inspirational thoughts. If you come from the Christian school background, you may want to share scripture quotes, things like that that provide inspiration to people. That's what we need. Again, it's kind of counterintuitive because it's not focused on you. It's actually focused on helping me. And so I like to see that. I like to get those into my news feed as well. Laughter is something fun too. This is obviously a delicate issue. You have to be appropriate in your humor. Think of your audience. Make sure you don't, just because you think it's funny and a couple of your people in your office think it's funny, think of your overall audience and make sure you're, as you're sitting around the office, you don't tweet something out or put on Facebook something that might be offensive or risque to your audience. But laughter, there's a lot of things you can do with that. You can post pictures around your campus that are funny, posing certain personnel who normally wouldn't be in a funny pose or a funny quote, but put them in that picture, and everybody, especially internally, gets that. But focus on other things too that make people laugh, videos that are fun. But there's a lot of things you can do on social media that are still appropriate humor that you can use in your social media strategy. Okay, now this is the next one, the P part, is actually the area that, unfortunately, this is the one where people typically spend 80% of their time, and that's the promotional part. Promoting your school activities, your events, the things that go on in your campus, the great things about your students, all of those things are important to share. You want to have a place and a time to do that, but don't do it 80% of the time. I follow a lot of schools. People sign up for things with us. I will go find their school and just follow them on Facebook just to see what's happening. I'll see somebody on Twitter and I'll follow them. I want to kind of research and see what's going on and what are some great ideas that people are posting from a school perspective. But one of the things I see over and over again is people self-promoting all the time. Again, there's a place for that, and this P allows you to promote your activities. You can promote your open house event. You can tell us about your class size, or you can tell us about the things that differentiate you, or even some of the great events from your sports teams, your academic teams, your fine arts teams. All of that, you can post that. Please share with people. You've got an internal community dying to see that information, but even some of your external audience, your prospective families, they do want to see that as well, but just don't do 80% of the time doing that, because that just really, one of the things that makes me feel like sometimes is it makes me feel like an outsider. If all you're doing is posting about things that are related to your school and who you are and your events and pictures about this, what happened today, eventually I get to feeling that I'm just not to be involved in that, and that's just not a perspective you want to give somebody. You want to help them, encourage them to feel included in that. The next two are going to be real fast because they both have to do with building community. The E letter here, the second E in this acronym, has to do with engagement. Do not be a one-way communication. Social media was built around being social. You can't just sit in the room and with a megaphone and yell at everybody and then never talk to anybody, never listen, never respond to anybody's question. You've got to engage. So those of you who maybe you sync up your Twitter from your Facebook, so when you post on Facebook and it automatically goes to Twitter, monitor that Twitter account in case somebody retweets you, or they ask a question, they mention you, or they reply to you, something. Don't leave that out there. And even on Facebook, I see schools sometimes do this. People will post questions on their page, even right after a post is made, and there's not anybody responding to it. Now, I know some of you can only do this. You're limited in your time, but this might be a chance to bring in some volunteers, some parent volunteers who can help you monitor, at least, even to be able to shoot you a text and say, hey, you got to look at the Facebook. Somebody made a comment or had a question. Somebody just to alert you of some things would be good. But there's some good ways to engage in conversation, asking questions on all the different social media channels. So engaging people is a very important part of your social strategy. And then the last one that rounds out our acronym HELPER, it has to do with the idea of building out, reaching out, and building relationships. And I think this is very important for going deeper with the kind of relationships you have already. But this is an opportunity to reach out to new people. I'm not sure I could ever imagine on Twitter being able to reach out to some of the people that I know now. Some of you might be on this webinar that registered, I know, and I would not have known you had it not been for Facebook or Twitter or one of those other tools. Some of you are following us on Instagram now, and maybe you've been on our Pinterest page. So this is an opportunity to reach out to new people and to go further with certain relationships that you have. That all together gives you an idea of what a social media strategy would look like. So that really, what I tell people is when you're sitting in front of your phone or your computer and you're trying to figure out what to post, just go through that acronym and try to remember, maybe I need to do an E today. Maybe I need to do some L because I haven't done enough L lately, and showcase some of the fun and our personality of our staff. We need to do more of that. You can get hooked up on being just, again, a lot of people just doing P all the time, but even to the point where you want to educate a lot, but sometimes we need to take a Friday and have some fun with the Friday afternoon and do something that showcases our personality. So that's going to be our strategy portion, and I wanted to give that to you today because it's really helped us. It helps. This is what I use when I'm posting. I know Donnie does this too, and so this is just kind of a summary of that. Just you can see that on the screen. Again, going back through that, just memorize that and get used to that, and we'll come. You'll have an opportunity to go back to that with the recording and see this. But just remember that acronym. That'll help you in your strategy. All right, so now we get into the fun part of the tactics. So what I hope to do now is to tell you to strap on your seatbelt if you haven't got one, and we're going to fly through this fast because when you're talking about social media tactics, this is the practical part of social media. That's the tools. Here's what we've tried to do is develop your social media marketing system. Again, this is somewhat inside of your overall inbound marketing system. There's going to be some things mentioned here that you might say, well, we should put them in this category and different. We've tried to categorize these the way we see them. We've actually modified this almost every year. We seem to change it mainly because the tools change. But we try to put them in categories so you can get an idea, one, of what are some things that I didn't even know that were available to me in social media. A lot of people think, well, social media is all Facebook and Twitter, right? Well, there's so much more, and you're going to see that as we build out this social media marketing system. So, as I said before, this is kind of your system. And now what we like to call it is a wheel. It looks like a wheel with some spokes coming out, and we're going to see at the very heart of that is what I mentioned in that letter H of the acronym, that your website is at the hub of your social media. And this is where you really want to drive people to. I want you to have a website that you can update, that is dynamic. Find some website that you can update. We do everything on WordPress because we like the freedom it gives us and people we've worked with to do that. But find a tool that you can use to make your website active and dynamic and changing. You're going to need that in a social media marketing system. But there's other components too that will talk to your website, and you'll see the spokes. You can imagine each one of these spokes kind of driving out from these different categories to the website, and maybe even from the website out to the different categories, and then kind of a circle around the website, which basically ties all the tools together. So we'll see this as we build this out, what we're talking about. So the first thing that we think, again, part of your inbound marketing system is certainly using email marketing. We love Constant Contact. There are other tools out there that you can use, but you're hopefully capturing your email addresses at the different events, but also even on your website from downloads that people do. They come here asking for information. You're capturing their email and you're getting them into your system, your database, and you can email them. And I'm not talking about an internal database where you just tell people, here's what the events of the day, here's the school lunch menu, those kind of things. I'm talking about emailing prospective families, educating them on your school, giving them information, going back to that helper strategy. Email marketing is going to be a big key to that, and it's going to drive people from their email, their inbox, to your website, and even, like the diagram will soon illustrate, around to the different social channels as well. So email marketing is certainly a component of your social media marketing system. As we go through this next one, you'll see that having a blog. We love having WordPress because the blog is integrated right into your site. You can have a blog. You can have multiple blogs. If you're ahead of school, I don't know why you're not blogging. I think you should be blogging. Some people like to write in 300 to 500 words, maybe a little bit longer articles once a week is appropriate. But you also might want to say, we're going to have multiple blog posts from different people on campus. Maybe athletic directors, maybe you have a lower school principal, maybe even a student. You can moderate, certainly, even in their content. You'll moderate all the content, but you give people an opportunity to have a voice and use the blog feature. You could do a video blog, and that simply is just a way to get somebody on a video and then upload it to YouTube and then embed it on your blog, and so you've got a video blog right there if people don't want to write. There's lots of ways to blog. But it's not just creating the content, but it's also having conversations. So find some time to find the people in your community who have blogs. There are people on your campus, parents, who have blogs of their own. Get on those sites and interact with them. Build a community with them as well. So blogging is a very important part of your social media system. The next one is the one that takes up the most time in our conversations. That's social networking. Those are big things like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Tumblr. I think even different internal niche networking sites like Ning and Google Plus. There's all kinds of different social networks. And again, some of these names of these categories may be different. Next year we may categorize it differently, but these are some of the ways that you see in terms of social media, really more of a networking aspect of people following each other and their friends, and there's interaction through those vehicles. And so using those tools, I think, is a great way to go back into your helper strategy and think about all these different places that you could interact and be a helper. Share educational information, share information from your website, lead and laugh, and all the different things are part of that helper strategy. You can do that through these networks. Now, here's what I'd say about the networks. I don't know right now why anybody shouldn't be on Facebook, and I'm talking about as a school. I will make a note. I do see this sometimes, that schools who have really more personal profiles set up as a school, you really need to have a page, and that's different than your personal profile. Your personal profile can just be yours, and you can certainly launch a business page or an organization page for your school, but you need to have that under a page and not. And the difference is a personal profile, somebody would ask to be a friend of yours. So if you see that on your school site, you've got it. You need to set it up differently, because what it needs to say is the opportunity to have the little like button on there. And so that's what you need to set up on Facebook. Twitter is one of those areas that I think more and more people, as we talked about that idea of reaching out and engaging in your community, Twitter is very popular, and I think you need to spend some time looking at Twitter. Like I said, you can sync those together. You can tweet and have it go to Facebook or vice versa. There's nothing wrong with that, but I would suggest that you monitor those when you do that. So I know that's probably not as much time as you want to spend, but we'll spend a great deal of time, the whole time, next week on the Facebook webinar. That's all about getting more likes to your Facebook page, because I really do think that's still, for many of you, the most prominent social network that you'll be a part of. Okay, the next thing is on-demand media. This is just a webinar just like this. In other words, you can watch it. We're going to have it live, but you can also maybe do a recording, and you can watch it on your own time, on demand. You can have a podcast. That's an area that we have. Schoolmarketingpodcast.com is what we'll be ramping up again this fall. There's a lot of great podcasts out there, both in the education world, but also in marketing and business, that you could certainly subscribe to. But you might want to have a podcast as well, maybe a principals podcast, something where you give an opportunity to do audio. and allow people to interact with you that way. So that would be one way to another tool that you could use in your social media marketing system. Press releases and news releases, this is one of those that doesn't get a lot of attention, but it does still provide an opportunity to give you online content, and I'm talking about digital press releases, news releases that you produce online. There's different ways of doing that. We use PR log, like PR, like press release log.com. You can, it's free. It's a free distribution service. You know, and you can produce as many as you want. It allows you to create content online that does get picked up by search engines. It's not. I wouldn't put all my eggs in that basket, but certainly there's no reason why you couldn't put a few out there. It also can give you content to feed to your local journalist, and PR Log does it in a way that gives you a URL as well as a PDF, so you can use both of those tools. But press releases is an area that I think often gets overlooked in a social media marketing system. But you can put the appropriate keywords in there, and they do get picked up. Now Google's always changing their algorithm, but there's still some value in press releases. So we'll go around the wheel a little bit more into the other two that are very popular right now. And this is photo and image sharing. There's been sites forever like Flickr, SmugMug. Many schools use SmugMug out there. You can use, I mean, we'll talk about images on Facebook next week, because that's a real important part of your Facebook strategy, is using images, photos, and even graphics. I mean, so I use the term images to kind of broadly encompass photos you take at your school, but also graphics that you create on your own. So images can be shared, and they're stored at different places around, like I said, the Flickr and SmugMug and places like that. But then they're shared. Now, Pinterest and Instagram have caught on most recently, and those have extreme value for your school. Many of you, there's some great stuff on Pinterest. One of the things that we try to do on Pinterest ourselves, and you can go to our website and click on the Pinterest logo and see what we do. But one of the boards that we have on Pinterest is called Private Schools Pinning. And what I've tried to do is, and certainly not all of them, but as I see certain private schools who are doing a good job at using Pinterest, I create a link over to there so you can get an idea of what they're doing. So that way you can, if you say, well, I love Pinterest myself, I just never thought about using it for a school, then get on our board. Just at least go from there to the Private Schools Pinning, and there's some great schools who are using Pinterest in a real unique, innovative way. And that drives traffic to your site, and it gets people talking about you. Instagram, obviously, is huge, probably even bigger among your students. Instagram is very, very popular from an image standpoint, because that's the way it started. And although you can't click through, at least not yet, other than the bio profile page, you can't click through the different images, which if they ever do that, that'll really put them in competition with Pinterest. But right now, you can see the images, but there's a great value in capturing the images on your campus, again, inspiring people through different kind of creative visuals on Instagram. But those are the image sharing. But now as we transition from images and photos, we got to get to video. And again, we'll talk more about this in the third webinar at the end of the month, because it's all these two that I'm talking about really have to do with your visual content strategy, images and video. But obviously having a YouTube channel, Vimeo is another source that people like to use. I like to use both for different reasons. Some people choose Vimeo. Some people say it's a little cleaner look. YouTube is obviously one of the most popular search engines out there, and it's owned by Google, so there's value there. YouTube and Vimeo are certainly the most prominent. But I think, as you've seen in the last year, if you've paid attention, you've seen Vine, which is an app from Twitter that captured these short 6-second videos. And then recently, over the summer, I think, if I remember, Instagram launched not just images, but now they have videos. And that has really transformed Instagram. My Instagram feed is now mostly, or at least half and half, images and video. So there's some really fun things you could do with video, sharing that and creating that. In some ways, I'd put Instagram into a social network as well, but it's got dual purposes, so we keep it in this category. But it's an incredible tool. You want to, and we'll find out more about those two categories at the end of the month. As we go through this latter part of the wheel, I'm just going to really go quickly. Online reviews is something that, oh boy, you've got to get on these. There's two prominent places where I would suggest you have online reviews. You might have a third. A third would be Yelp. Some of you, Yelp is gaining ground in beyond just restaurants and businesses, but you could certainly have reviews on Yelp. But the two most prominent areas I would do is your Google local page. You've got to get reviews on that because that's what shows up in the Google searches, and so people are searching. Maybe they're new to your community or they're looking for opportunities other than their current education choice. They will find you on Google and they will see your place page or your local page, I think they call it now. They will see that page and it has the number of reviews. And you know how easy it is to get negative reviews? A lot easier to get negative reviews than it is to get positive reviews, unfortunately. So you've got to go aggressively, being intentional about getting those online reviews on Google because of that prominence of Google. But the other place is greatschools.org. Many of you are familiar with this, but I would certainly strongly recommend you getting an intentional strategy about getting reviews on greatschools.org because those can be shared around the different social media platforms. So that's why we include it in here, and it's simply just part of people's overall online engagement. They're going to look and find you on greatschools.org. And there's a lot of schools out there with bad reviews on great schools, and you just got to go get some great positive reviews. All right, real quickly, I won't spend much time on this one. Social publishing. There's some different. Basically, we are a publishing world right now. Publishing content of all kinds. You can do slides. You can do documents. You may want to do a webinar of your own or a PowerPoint presentation. Taking some of your basically FAQs and that maybe some of you do it at an open house. You maybe have a bunch of slides. Put those on SlideShare. That's an app online that you can go to and upload your slides and then share those on Facebook and Twitter and embed those on your website. You're publishing your content so other people can find them, find all that content that you've got out there. So social publishing is just an area that you might want to explore a little bit more. QR codes is just more of a tactical side. It's a little bit social. One of the things I would mention on this, it can be used effectively. Sometimes I see some really lousy. I saw one on a blimp once. I don't know why people would do a QR code on a blimp or even on the back of a bus. I'm not sure that's going to work, but I've seen good ads in magazines. Don't take your QR code. If you do use those, don't have it go to your homepage, please. That's the worst place it can go. There's no way to give you any analytics of tracking that, measuring the success of the ad. Have it go to a landing page at least so that you can track that. And perhaps QR codes do not, they're not real prominent. Not a lot of people have the app on their phone to do that, but it is one way that you can engage with people. So use that. The last two I'll just run real quickly, and that's just check-ins using Foursquare and Yelp and some of those other places that you could, even Facebook, where you check in, using that, social media platforms like that, to where you can create, again, they're kind of into that networking, social networking area right across the page. But again, having a theater night and telling everybody to check in on their phone, that's social right there, and it turns your Facebook news feed of all their friends, and everybody's seeing that. So all these people are checking into your campus. So there's some good things that can be done with that. Now the last one is the one that we leave open, because we know there's going to be something coming down the pike. So we have to leave it open. This is overwhelming to many of us, and including myself. We do not. Let me tell you this much: we do not engage ourselves in all of these categories. It would be impossible for us to do that. And we are in the business of marketing, so we work with schools all the time on marketing and businesses, but we don't do all of these in our own social media marketing. We pick and see where is our audience, who's our target market. You need to do that and find out what they're using and go there. But it doesn't mean that you might want to put different have phases or something and say, maybe 2014 we ought to tackle that podcast thing. That might be interesting for next year. Look at these categories and start looking for ways to enhance your social media marketing. But one at a time, kind of category at a time. But certainly I would focus, even the first three would probably be my prominent. The email marketing, your blog, and your social networks, those three would probably be the area I would start first in. All right, we're on to the third key. We've got about, what do we have, about 15, 20 minutes, something like that. Reminding you to hashtag at SM4Schools, please, and share that. Follow me on Twitter. But as we get into this last part, I want you to be thinking about what we've talked about. We've talked about the strategy and being a helper. And we've certainly talked about this category of all these tactical tools and programs and apps that you can use. But in reality, none of that is going to make any sense unless we show how we're going to integrate this into our overall marketing plan. And so we're going to talk about integration. And let me just kind of walk you through what I see about integration that I want you to consider as we walk through this. For generations, decades and decades, we've been wanting to grow our school. So what have we done in the past? We've employed traditional marketing, which one term is called outbound marketing, and that could include anything related to maybe even TV for some of you in bigger markets or bigger budgets, radio. Many of you have done direct mail campaigns, letters, postcards, magazines, journals, newspaper ads. You've done all kinds of stuff. Any effort and billboards would be included in that. There's a lot of the traditional marketing approaches that have existed for a long time, and that's what we have used to drive people into our schools. Certainly has worked for some of you. Some of you have said over time, though, you think, what's going on? Our direct mail campaign doesn't seem to be drawing the same number of people into our preview night. Certainly the radio commercial didn't produce what we were wanting, and it's gotten more expensive over time. And so we begin to evaluate why it's not working. But fortunately, something else has come along, and that is what we just got through talking about in the tactical side, is having a social media marketing system. And this is where it's so exciting to me to help schools walk through this, is understanding when your direct mail campaign's not working like you want, when your other advertising methods aren't working, you've got something else to go in. You're still going to use this to drive people into your school. You're still going to use some of those tools. But one of the things that you can do to make them even more effective is driving people into your social media marketing system. So you can drive them even from a direct mail campaign. It can transform your direct mail campaign. So I'll give you an idea. So rather than just saying, hey, here, go check out our open house, you can really drive some, and don't just say, find us on Facebook. Personally, I get real annoyed when people tell me to find them on Facebook. It's basically saying, can you go and find the needle in the haystack? I want to be told where to go. QR codes in that way do have some value if you want to QR code it to your Facebook page. But even having the URL listed there would be a whole lot better than find us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter. Give me an idea where I'm supposed to go first so I don't have to do all the searching. Again, you're thinking about being a helper. So don't think about how easy it would be for you just to put the logo on there to follow us on Twitter. Be a helper. Think about what I need. But you're driving people to your Facebook page, and I'll tell you this, one of the things about social media that it does is it creates an opportunity. There are some families who have maybe attended an open house event. Maybe they've inquired. Maybe you've got them, they're friends of some of the current families that you have. But in reality, they're not at a point where they're ready to make that leap from, let's say, a public school into private school. Maybe they're in homeschool and they're looking at a Christian school, but they're just not ready to give up that opportunity that they have at home to influence the education of their children. Maybe they're in another private school and they're just not sure they're ready to make that jump over to your school. They're not ready yet. But if you're just waiting until the next marketing season to send them a direct mail postcard, then you may be missing out on a lot of opportunity in between. We've got to build what we call know, like, and trust. That's developing and nurturing that relationship. And social media is an excellent opportunity to draw people from your direct mail campaign, from your radio, even TV, and certainly your magazine and newspaper ads over to social media. So yes, you might want to include the information about the marketing event that you're having, your open house, but certainly give them a reason to go to your Facebook page. Maybe go there and they can go to your website and download again a helpful resource. Maybe it's like, here's 5 tips on knowing how to find scholarships. I think that if I was a senior, if I was a junior, maybe even a sophomore, and my family would enjoy going to your website to find out that information. How to transition from pre-K to kindergarten. What are some ways to do that? Those are helpful resources that you can put on your website, maybe and show people how to do it. Maybe do a YouTube video about some of that stuff. Driving people into your social media marketing system, and now you've got the opportunity to develop know, like, and trust. And it may be the next year before they're able to fully be ready to come into your school. And so you see the system here. It's in place. You're using your traditional methods, and then you're driving them into your social media system, and then driving them from there into your school. It could be driving them straight from the traditional marketing to your school, but it's also just be from social media to your school. There's lots of ways in this social media system. Having this in place, it's not just about getting likes and comments. It's not just getting how many followers can we get. It's what is the activity, the action of those followers on social media. What are we calling them to do? And so having this inbound marketing strategy combined with the outbound marketing strategy might even produce, because we're not just about scrapping the old traditional outbound. There's some value in that. You just have to have a real clear evaluation, and that's why the metrics and the measurement is such an important part of this. But let me give you a term that John Jantz, who I follow and we're connected with duct tape marketing, he introduced a term because he likes the idea of outbound still being valuable, but obviously loves inbound marketing too. So why not create a new term? He said, call it omnibound marketing. And that's just really a fun term to basically say, let's look at the value of integrating all of this together so that we're actually creating a system that is useful and helpful to our audience. It's going to drive them. I like to think of this as stepping stones. Taking your family, maybe your first point of contact is a direct mail campaign or an advertising in a magazine, but that might drive them, rather than trying to drive them forcefully into your school, let's nurture them into your social media marketing system. And then when they come out of that may be a few days, it may be weeks, it may be a full year, but when they come to your school at that point in time, they've already gotten to know you, they like you, and they trust you. And that's going to make them what we call loyal ambassadors. You don't want just to fill seats. Of course, that's going to sound a little controversial. You want to occupy the seats, but what you really want to do is fill them with loyal ambassadors, meaning families who repeat and families who refer. When they repeat and refer, you've got the best thing going. You've got loyal ambassadors. And I don't think it's just really hard to do that from a magazine ad and driving people straight into an open house. You can certainly convert them on your campus. Many of you have real great success rates of conversion of them signing up when they get on your campus. But think about what added value they have when they come having gone through your social media system as well. And so that's what we're talking about when we mention integration. So we're talking about strategy, we're talking about tactics, and then the whole idea of integrating all of this together. And I hope what today has been is something that has given you an insight, maybe a bird's eye view, if anything, of all this thing had to do with social media. We wanted you to have an understanding of social media. Again, there's some things that we didn't get to cover today, but I hope that from the strategy and the tactics and the integration, you get what we consider to be the 3 most important elements of a social media system. And so that's what we wanted to give you today. We do want to give you a free gift on top of this. We do have the recording available. We do have those of you who registered for this webinar, and you did it by clicking the link where it said that you wanted us to register for all three webinars. We will do that, like Donnie mentioned earlier. We will register you for the other 2 webinars, so you don't have to do anything else. That's another free gift we've given to you. But really what we wanted to do, and you'll see on the page, We want to have you follow us on social media, but our free gift to you today is a free 30-minute phone consultation. This is an opportunity. If you feel a little bit overwhelmed today, we want you to take advantage of this free gift. If you're ready to launch and you just need a quick consultation with somebody, here's my promise to you. You may be looking at this today and say, boy, I don't know, that these guys love slides. They love to cram a lot in. I promise you, my one and only job, well, I'll say I have two jobs. When we make a 30-minute phone consultation, my job is to listen. And what I hope to be my second job is to give you something practical. I'm looking for at least one, maybe two, maybe three ways that you can practically implement something right off the bat from our conversation. I want to leave you in 30 minutes, and I'll tell you, it's a little bit, usually goes longer than 30 minutes, but we want to give you 30 full minutes of listening. You bring us your question. You say, hey, I'm ready to get on the Instagram thing. I love it. I'm doing it for my personal, but I'd love to do it for our school. Can you walk us through what that would look like? So I'm gonna listen, and I'm gonna listen to what your goals are. I want to listen to what you're thinking and how you use it now, and then I'm going to give you some ideas. Maybe you're looking at this and saying, I don't even know where to start, Randy. We're so far behind, and I see other schools doing this, and I know we got to get there. I'm going to give you some tools. I'm going to give you the most practical ways to get started. And there may be other questions you have. Again, we want to give that 30 minutes to you to dive into 30 minutes of whatever you want to talk about. We have no agenda. There's no slides. We do not come there with anything. What we do is we'll listen to your needs. We'll try to look for some practical ways. Doesn't mean that if you want to know more about what we do, we can certainly share that with you, but we're not there to try to force you into any kind of obligation with us at all. As a matter of fact, what I hope to do is have you look at that screen and go to our website and follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and as you see there, all the different channels. We've done a lot of YouTube videos over the last year, just training videos, again, trying to help understand how to use Facebook, Twitter, some of those things. We need to update some more with Instagram now. We have a LinkedIn group that you can be a part of, and again, I mentioned on Pinterest. We will have this free gift to you. If you go to yourschoolmarketing.com/30, I believe it's up there. If it's not, it'll be up there momentarily. But is it up there now? We're just about ready to do it. We were going to try to have it done before, but just ran out of time this morning. But if you'll go to /30, you can also just go to yourschoolmarketing.com. There's a link there where it talks about getting in contact with us. That's a free gift. We want you to just take advantage of that. Promise you it is a no obligation consultation, as they say, but it is 30 minutes we want to give of our time to you. So that is the look at the three areas, the three keys of understanding social media, and that's all about strategy, tactics, and integration. So I'll remind you as we go through, I'll try to navigate the slides here. I'll kind of go back. Pardon me. I'm going to go back and look at, it's going to take me forever. This is the one I'm going to look at right here. Donnie's like freaking out. Okay. Oops. Let's go to the next one, and that's to remind you that of the upcoming webinars. So go to schoolmarketingwebinars.com, and certainly you've already registered if you're on this call, but we want you to go there and look at that and share the links there with your friends and colleagues in other schools and give them an opportunity to sign up as well. So those are the kind of things that we're talking about and trying to help you with. That is all our time. Donnie, is there anything else we need to go? I think Donnie's good to go. So we'll let, I think we're a few minutes early, I think. So we'll let you go early and look forward to having you back next week as we share more information about social media for schools.